Hi kids, today we're going to start chapter 7. Please make sure you go back and check Wiser Me to see this test score that was given. I only have 2 more students I think that need to take the test. The scores are recorded, and I've also made a comment for each one of you to read about the test. So now back to chapter 7, lesson 1. This is found on page 513 in your math book. Page 513, chapter 7, lesson 1. All right, we have some important vocabulary words that we're going to talk about today. And the first one we're going to deal with is equation. And what is the definition of an equation? It is a mathematical sentence showing 2 expressions are equal. So an equation has an equal sign. Let's put that's the important thing. It has an equal sign, and it shows 2 expressions are equal. If I'm going too fast, please put it on pause so you have plenty of time to copy this down. An example would be something like 5 plus x equals 15. All right. Now, an expression is different. Expressions do not have an equal sign. No equal sign in an expression. All right. And the definition is a combination of numbers and operations which might contain variables. So a combination of numbers and operations, that's add, subtract, multiply, divide, and possibly contain variables. All right, what's an example? Here we could say something like 10 minus x plus 12. Something like that, where you have numbers, operations, and a variable. How are an equation and expression similar? They both contain numbers and operations. You could put digits, I suppose, instead of numbers. Numbers, operations, and variables. Now they don't have to have variables. Let's just put may contain variables. Operations, add, subtract, multiply, divide. Those are the 4 operations. Now it says, how are an equation and an expression different? Equations have equal sign. Or I should say equations have an equal sign, expressions do not. Very important that you fill this page out, page 513 in your math book. Now let's go on to page 514. In page 514, it says solve addition and subtraction equations mentally. So that's what we're going to do. This one's pretty easy. 2 plus what equals 9? You know that the answer is 7. That's how you would solve that one mentally. So sometimes it is very easy to solve problems mentally, and sometimes it is not. All right, so let's look at example 1. Is 3, 4, or 5 the solution to this? Well, that one's another pretty easy one to know that the answer is going to be 4. All right, any questions on solving these problems mentally? If you do, please let me know. We're not going to spend any more time on this lesson where we solve the problems mentally. We're going to now move on to lesson 2, because I really want you to learn how to solve equations. So let's just keep on turning the pages, and we're going to go to lesson 2. Page 525 is where the lesson begins. So this is chapter 7, lesson 2. We are actually going to skip page 525 and go on to page 526. So we are now on page 526. The only part of lesson 1 that I really wanted to touch upon was the definition page on that lesson. So now we're at page 526. We're going to talk about the proper way to solve a one-step equation. Example 1. Before we talk about example 1, I want to talk about the words inverse operations. In lesson 1, you mentally solved equations. Another way to use inverse operations, let's underline this, which undo each other. For example, to solve an addition equation, use subtraction. Subtraction is the inverse operation of addition. Solve 8 equals x plus 3. I know you all know the answer is 5, but I want you to practice showing your work the way that you would for an algebra session. So let's put this problem over to the left. All right, so let's write down 8 equals x plus 3. I know that everyone knows the answer is 5, but we are working on our technique in these problems. And let me just zoom in on this a little bit for you. Okay, just the camera. And I want to focus. That's better. All right, so to undo addition, we are going to subtract. So minus 3 minus 3. That step is called balancing an equation. We balanced each side of the equal sign. You can put an equal sign underneath there. That cancels it out. 8 minus 3 is 5, and the answer is 5 equals x. And you circle that. Now, they also are going to require you to do a check step. The check step will be you replace your x with the value that it is, a 5. So the check step, does 8 equal 5 plus 3? Why, yes, it does. And the check step. Now we're going to do the problems at the bottom of page 526, and we're going to show the steps. I will ask that you show me these problems when we're doing our Zoom session tomorrow. Minus 2, minus 2, balance the equation. Bring down your equal signs. You line them up. You want to have a straight spine. C equals 3. Check step. Going to have to fit it in here. Does 3 plus 2 equal 5? Yes, it does. And I always circle my answer. Let's go on to letter B. To undo adding 5, subtract 5, subtract 5. 1 equals x because they canceled each other out. Let's do our check step. Does 6 equal 1 plus 5? Why, yes, it does. The answer is x equals 1, or you could write 1 equals x. Oh, now we're getting, that's a little more challenging. This time we are going to undo with decimals, and you need to line your decimal point up. Our job is to get y all by itself. We have to get rid of adding 3 and 5/10. To undo adding, we subtract. 3 and 5/10. Line your decimal points up. Y equals, put a 0 in the empty spot. 5 minus 0 is 5. 7 minus 5 is 2. Decimal point, 12 minus 3 is 9. 9 and 25 hundredths. Now, let's do the check step. And this time I'm going to do it vertically. Does 3.5 plus 9 and 25 hundredths, does that equal 12.75? That's a 5 right there. I'm having problems writing that. Yes, it does. So y equals 9 and 25 hundredths. Any questions? All right, let's go on now to the subtraction property of equality on page 527. This states, if you subtract the same number from each side of an equation, the two sides remain equal. And that's what we were just doing earlier. So, 5 equals 5. If you subtract 3 from each side, 2 equals 2. In algebra, it looks like this. X plus 2 equals 3. You want x by itself, you subtract 2 from both sides, x equals 1. It states, when you solve an equation by subtracting the same number from each side of the equation, you are using the subtraction property of equality. Let's just circle that to make sure you know what it is that you are working on. Now we're ready to look at example 2. In example 2, we have a word problem. It says Reuben and Tariq have 245 and 5/10 downloaded minutes of music. If Reuben has 132 minutes, how many belong to Tariq? Write and solve an addition equation. Okay, this is important. We have to write and solve an addition equation to find how many minutes belong to Tariq. Okay, so here they have a flow chart talking about how to do this problem. In words, Reuben and Tariq have 245 and 5/10 minutes of music. Let T represent the number of minutes that belong to Tariq. That step is called where you define the variable. Very important for you to always define your variable. T equals Tariq's minutes, okay? An easy step to always do. Then they have a bar diagram. In the bar diagram, we know that the total amount is 245 and 5/10 minutes. We know that Reuben has 132. We're trying to figure out how many Tariq has. You could just put a T in there. So you know 132 plus T equals 245 and 5/10. So there's the equation. Here it shows solving the equation using the subtraction property of equality, answer, and check step. Now let's go on and do letter D. I think we'll probably have to show our work to the side over here. Suppose Reuben had 147 and 5/10 minutes of the 245 and 5/10 that were downloaded. Write and solve an equation to find how many minutes belong to Tariq. So the first thing I'm going to do is say T equals Tariq. Okay, now my equation is going to be, I'm going to put it over here so I have plenty of space, 147 and 5/10 plus T equals 245 and 5/10. All right, now we solve the equation. For T, we have to subtract 147 and 5/10. Bring down your equal sign and T, line them up. T equals 0, borrow. 15 minus 7 is 8. That's a 3, 13. So the answer is 98 minutes. T equals 98 minutes. It did not ask for a check step on that problem. Okay, now let's go to the next page. In number 3, here we have a similar problem. A male gorilla weighs 379 pounds on average. This is 181 pounds more than the weight of the average female gorilla. Write and solve an addition equation to find the weight of an average female gorilla. Okay, they use W equals the weight of the female gorilla. Okay, that they define their variable. They did a bar diagram. If you get stuck, draw bar diagrams. I'm not going to require you to do that today. We know 181 plus the weight of the female gorilla, W, equals 379. There's their equation. You solve the equation showing balancing on both sides. You have to put minus 81 here. That cancels it out. So then you end up with W equals 198 pounds. Don't forget, if it's a word problem, to label it. Now let's do 1, 2, 3, and 4 together before I let you do your homework. Here we go. Minus 7, minus 7. Draw your line. That cancels. Bring down your equal sign underneath that one. Y equals 3 and circle. Check step. Does 3 plus 7 equal 10? Yes, it does. I want to see both of these things on your paper whenever I ask to see it. To solve for E, I must get rid of a plus 6 or a positive 6. Minus 6, minus 6. Draw your line. Line up your equal sign. That cancels. 10 minus 6 is 4. 4 equals E. Circle it. Does 10 equal 6 plus 4? Yes, it does. Now, on a test or a quiz, you'll get points for showing your step, getting your answer, and the check step. So it's very important that you do all 3 things. Now we're going to do a word problem. A board that measures 19 5/10 meters in length is cut into 2 pieces. One piece measures 7 2/10 meters. Write and solve an equation to find the length of the other piece. For this problem, we first have to define our variable. You'll get a point for defining the variable. Here I'm going to do x equals other piece. Or you could say other board. All right, now my equation is going to be x plus 7.2 equals 19.5. Then minus 7 2/10, minus 7 2/10. Oh, it's going to get a little messy here. X equals, when you subtract 12 3/10. In this one, it did not ask for the check step, so the answer is 12 3/10 meters. Our last example is number 4. In this problem, it takes 43 facial muscles to frown. This is 26 more muscles than it takes to smile. Write and solve an equation to find the number of muscles it takes to smile. So X equals smile muscles, M-U-S-C-L-E-S. Now, I'm going to write my equation over here. It will be X plus 26 equals 43. Subtract 26 from both sides of the equal sign. Bring down your equal sign. X equals 17. And the answer is 17 muscles. All right. Now, what I would like for you to do for your homework today is on page 529. I would like for you to do 1 to 6. So your homework for today, 1 to 6. It should be a pretty easy one. Do all 6 problems, show your work, read the directions. Have a good day, kids. Goodbye.